I really wanted to share with you something that I learned in class today that kind of blew my mind, and it really made me think about myself differently and also about people that I know and their experiences and what the hell am I talking about? Okay, so it's kind of a sensitive topic maybe because of the time in my life where I am, in the sense that I am older, and realizing this at an older age, even though it doesn't change what I want, at least at the moment, I don't know if I would have made different decisions if I was younger. And like, I really wish I knew this when I was younger. Um, and what is it that I wish that I knew and that I learned? Well, I'm taking a hormones and behavior class at university. I love the class, it's amazing. Um, but recently we've been learning about parental behavior. And parental behavior includes, maternal and paternal behavior, but mostly maternal because in most species, females are the ones who do most of the childcare. But anyway, we were talking about rats. Okay, so think of that as you will. Some people, they don't really take like the rat research that seriously because they say that we're not rats, which is true, but there are enough similarities that a lot of research done on animals, including rats, has led to discoveries and parallels for us as well. So that's something to keep in mind. But the whole experiment basically was presenting rats, female rats, to pups, and the pups are the baby rats, okay? So they presented female rats new pups that were not theirs. So they were like foster pups for these females at different age ranges. So different age groups got presented with new pups, and some of the females were like pre-pubertal, so they obviously didn't have kids of their own. Some of them were pubertal, also like didn't have kids of their own. They just hit puberty. They just started to have puberty. And they also presented them to like the new babies, the new pups. They presented them to rats that were nulliparous, which means like they have never had kids. And they presented them to rats who have had kids. So a lot of like different age groups and also just different life experiences that these rats have had. Just like funny talking about rats and their life experiences, but hey, it's true. So anyway, it's good to keep in mind that like one day in the life of a rat is approximately like 7 days of a human. So how long did it take for these female rats to be comfortable with the new pups, the foster pups that they were given, and start to exhibit maternal behaviors towards those pups? Well, interestingly enough, it had to do with their experiences partly. So first-time moms, or like moms that have rats that have never had kids before versus rats who have had kids before took different amounts of time. But also, interestingly, prepubertal rats took a different amount of time than pubertal rats. Rats that had never been pregnant and had never had kids of their own, it took them about 5 to 6 days. And the pubertal rats were the same. So it took 5 or 6 days. Actually, the pubertal rats were like a little bit longer, so you can say like 6 days, and then rats that have never had kids a little bit like later, not that they just hit puberty, it would also take them a long time, but a little bit less time. So let's say 5 days. What was really interesting was that rats pre-puberty, if they were presented with the pups, they took about 1 day, about 1 or 2 days. So I think that there's like something there about how if you have siblings, we're kind of like primed to take care of them. Like it's easy for females to accept exhibiting the maternal behaviors towards the young when they're young. And what's also this is showing is that if you were presented with the pups at an early age, or if you had babies of your own, the maternal behavior, it kind of like you have a memory of that. You have a memory of maternal behavior, and you're able to easily and quickly engage in those behaviors again. But if you're a female rat who has never had kids and you've never been exposed to pups before, it takes you, let's say, like 5 to 6 whoops 5 to 6 days, which is approximately, like, I would consider that in human time about a month and a half. And why was I saying that I think that this is so crucial for women to know, or like even girls, like teenagers to know, is that, okay, I'm gonna get a bit personal first, is that I'm 35, I've never had kids, and I've never wanted kids. And I've been staunchly in the camp of like not wanting kids. And part of the reason that I felt that way is because I'm very self-aware, and I noticed that when I was around kids, I avoided them and I wasn't interested in them at all. Like, there was I found them a little bit like aversive, right? Like, I found babies a little bit aversive. Like, they're loud and I don't know what to do with them, and they just seem like a lot of hassle, and they kind of take your freedom away. So just based on my gut instinct of how I felt when I was around very young babies, and also if my friends had a baby, and they, I love my friends and I love their babies, but I felt extremely uncomfortable around their babies. If they asked me if I wanted to hold their baby, I'd be like, oh no, thank you. And finding out that rats are the same, like rats that have never given birth are kind of the same, and the reason that they don't like new pups is because rats like to explore, but they're also afraid of new things. So babies are new to them, and they even find, like, because the smell of a baby has a specific kind of smell and they're very sensitive to smell, and when they smell the babies, they feel like some repulsion if they're not accustomed to the smell. So it takes them time. It takes them, as I said, 5 to 6 days, but for us it would be like 1 month and a half. So for me to have engaged in maternal behaviors, I would have had to be exposed either for a month and a half as someone who has hit puberty or after, or if you're young and you're exposed, it takes much less time. It takes about a day, which is like a week. So if I had a younger sibling, then I might have had those maternal behaviors turned on, but I don't. I'm the youngest. I also have a tiny family, which means I don't have a lot of cousins. I had actually only one first cousin, and she was older than me, so I didn't get to experience that at all. And then the interesting thing about the research also that I felt was really eye-opening was that these maternal behaviors were almost instantly activated after the female had given birth. So if they measured also like first-time mothers during birth, so during their birth, they would take the same amount of time as the other female rats that had never given birth. But as they got closer to the day of the birth, about 1 to 2 days before, you see a sharp decline in the amount of time that it takes them to engage in maternal behaviors. So it's like something switches in them, and then once they give birth, it takes them like 0 time. Their curve is completely at the bottom. I'll put it up on the screen, but you can see that it takes them no time after birth to engage in those behaviors. And then like later on, you see that they retain that like low amount of time. It just grows like a tiny bit. So it takes them still about half of a day to engage in maternal behaviors after they've given birth. And the reason that I think that it's so important for girls and women to know that is that, if you're someone like me, you're really self-aware and you feel uncomfortable around kids. Like, you feel totally out of the water. you don't know what to do, you find them like weird and scary. Like, honestly, it is scary. It is scary being around an infant and thinking like, oh my God, what would happen if like I held him and I dropped him, or just some crazy, crazy things, and like not knowing what to do and not knowing how to act. But if you're self-aware, you think, oh, like this is a sign. Also, I've been around other people. Like, I have a mom and I have like friends who have kids. So I've been around other people, or even friends that as young girls, like friends that when they were young were exposed to like babies because they have younger siblings, and seeing them when they see a kid or around like a child, like a baby, get so excited and just like basically start like playing with them and all, being pretty maternal towards this like usually a strange child. I'm not heartless. If I see a baby, like I have an instinct to smile and I'll smile at the baby, but I don't have any desire to approach the baby, to hold the baby, or like play with the baby. I just don't know what to do. And so what this class has taught me is that it's normal. I used to think that I just don't have that. Like, women, most girls have that. They have that natural thing that they just know what to do around babies, and they feel drawn to them, and babies are kind of like, enticing for them, or, interesting. And for me, I was like, oh, I don't have that. Like, babies are scary to me. I feel uncomfortable around babies. I feel really incompetent around babies, and like I must be missing something. I just thought to myself, like, I don't have the mom thing. I'm not meant to be a mom, and so that's why I never thought to have kids. Like, I always thought to myself that I wasn't interested in having kids. But I had such a huge perspective shift from this class because I realized that it's normal, and most of my friends that wanted kids do have either siblings, younger siblings, or they have a big family where they were able to be around like babies for some part of their childhood. And so they learned to have the maternal behavior, and then they have like the memory of that maternal behavior. So I think that that's really interesting. Of course, like, it's not the only reason that I decided not to have kids. So I can't say that I had this epiphany and then was thinking to myself, the next thing that I need to do is go and get knocked up. Definitely not. It wasn't the only thing that was holding me back. There are a lot of other things that would make it difficult for me to make the decision to have a child, but it was a big part of that. Like, it was important for me to feel that I want to do it and I could do it, because, when you see parents that didn't want to have kids or don't feel like they care about or want to have their kids now, and they don't take good care of their kids, like, I wouldn't have never wanted to be a bad mother. I'd rather not be a mother, even though some people think that that's the worst thing that you could do is not have kids in your life. And I beg to differ, but let's just agree to disagree. I digress. My point is that I want women and girls to know that if they don't feel a maternal instinct, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with them, and it doesn't mean that they wouldn't feel the maternal instinct if they had their own kids. So that's a huge thing. And as I said, I know the study was done with rats, but they did repeat something similar with primates, and we are primates, but we're human primates. And this was done with rhesus monkeys, so they're non-human primates. And they exposed basically like similar kinds of things, like never mothers with mothers that already had kids before. But they found the same thing, where if they exposed for 5 days, the monkeys that had never had kids didn't display maternal behaviors towards those like baby monkeys. They kind of avoided them and kind of didn't want anything to do with them. But the mothers, the previous mothers, either the ones that were older who can't have kids anymore, or even like the ones who are still able to have kids, but they're currently not pregnant, not taking care of children, but they have in the past, they exhibited maternal behavior very quickly, like within the first day. So, yeah. My point is not to say that everyone should go out and have kids, because that's not the right choice for everyone. There are other things to consider. Like I said, for myself, like there's physical health stuff, and getting pregnant is not easy for everyone, but for many people it is the easy part. But it's just to say that if you felt reluctant to have kids because you don't have that desire, and you think that, oh, maybe I wouldn't be a good mother because I feel a certain type of way around children, around babies specifically, just know that when you give birth, you're flooded with hormones, and those hormones, and also like the experience of having your own child, these things, the maternal instinct really can be awakened in you. And if that's the only reason that is holding you back from having kids, I even forgot to mention about, the state of the world, politics and environment and all that stuff. But if you can look past that, just know that you'd probably be a great mom. All right, love you.